In The Big Short, one of the most iconic and popular scenes is the Jenga scene. Jared Bennett uses this simple game to explain the impending collapse of the housing market to Mark Baum and his team. The scene is not only intriguing, but also darkly humorous. Before we understand the scene, first you need to know how mortgage-backed securities are made and structured. Here is the short clip of how these MBS are created from one of our previous videos. The most important aspect of the 2008 home crash is that everyone wants to own a home. To buy the home, banks provide loans. When a borrower goes to the bank to get a loan, banks cross-verify whether that person is capable of paying back the loan. If the person is not capable of paying them, banks usually reject the loan. If the person is capable of paying back the loan, then the bank gives him the loan and earns interest. This is how commercial banks make money by giving out loans. But what happens after the loan is given by the bank? Let's say 10 people have taken a loan from ABC Bank to buy a house, and they owe money to ABC Bank. Now, what ABC Bank does is sell these loans to an investment bank. Now people owe the money to the investment bank. The investment bank combines these loans and creates new products known as mortgage-backed securities. This process is known as securitization and allows investment banks to transform a portfolio of individual loans into a tradable security. This product is then sold to investors. Investors trust these mortgage-backed securities because they're considered one of the safest investments, as everyone pays their home loans to own a house. These home loans are the fundamental part of these mortgage-backed securities. In mortgage-backed securities, these loans are rated by rating agencies like Moody's. The rating is done according to the behavior of the borrower. It is called a tranche. For example, if a borrower pays the premium on time and never misses any premium, the probability of such a borrower paying back the loan is higher, so such loans are typically rated higher. These loans are rated as AAA loans. Another type of borrower might miss some of the premium here and there, but at the end, he will pay back his loan. He may pay it a little late, but in the end, he pays it back, and this type of borrower is slightly riskier than the previous type of borrower. So, such loans are rated a little lower. These loans are rated BBB. And the third type of borrower might default on his payments and not be able to pay back his loan. Such loans are rated lower, and they are rated as CCC loans. Now, when an investor invests in such mortgage-backed securities, they first check the overall ratings given by the credit rating agencies to these mortgage-backed securities. If a mortgage-backed security had a higher number of AAA loans, it was considered a safer investment by investors. But there was another problem because investment banks and credit rating agencies were hand in hand. The credit rating agencies never gave the true rating to these loans. For example, if the loan actually had a rating of CCC, but the credit rating agencies ignored that and gave it a rating of AAA. So all these mortgage-backed securities were rated higher because of these fraud ratings by credit rating agencies. Because of this, investors thought these mortgage-backed securities had the majority of AAA-rated loans, but instead they were all filled with the majority of CCC-rated riskier loans, which made these mortgage-backed securities much riskier than investors thought. Ideally, these loans are arranged in MBS according to their true ratings. But the banks gave lots of loans to people with poor credit ratings, and the rating agencies gave higher ratings to such bad loans. CCC-rated loans were given a rating of BBB or BB. In many cases, these loans were given AAA ratings. When an investor used to bet his money on the CCC-rated tranche, he knew that there was a risk in that investment for higher reward, and he was aware of it. But BBB were moderately safe tranches, and AAA were the safest. That means these tranches ideally should have loans that are given to people with good credit scores who make the repayments without much issue. But because of the fraud ratings of the rating agencies, the CCC-rated loans ended up in AAA-rated tranches, and investors who thought they were betting the money on the AAA-rated safe tranches, their money was actually going for the CCC-rated, more risky loans. This was the case with most mortgage-backed securities. This is what Jared explains to Mark Baum and team in this meeting. He says that because of fraud ratings, Even if the MBS has more AAA-rated loans, the majority of them are just actually CCC or just B-rated.
These Bs and double Bs went from a little risky to dog shit.
He actually studied those MBS and says that most of these borrowers have FICO below 550.
Nobody knows what's in the bonds. I've seen some that are 65% AAA rated that I know for a fact are filled with 95% subprime shit with FICOs below 550.
FICO is a credit rating of a borrower that determines his credit worthiness. A credit score below 570 means the person is less likely to pay back the loan, and such loans were given the AAA ratings by the rating agencies. Then, he talks about the default rate of these MBS and says the default rate has already risen from 1 to 4%, and if it goes back to 8%, then MBS bonds will fail. Now, let's understand this. Let's say an MBS is made up of 100 loans. The investors who invest money in these MBS only make money if the borrower of the loan in these MBS keeps making payments to repay his loan. As the loans were given to the people with poor credit ratings who had no source of income, it was obvious that they would at one point be unable to pay back their loans. So, when this starts to happen, the MBS would lose value. So, when the default rate is 4%, then 96 out of 100 people were able to pay back their loans. And at this point, the MBS is already losing value, but it is still manageable, because there's enough income from those 96 people's payments to cover the investments and pay back those who invested in the MBS. When the default rate is at 8%, now only 92 out of 100 people are paying back their loans. At this point, the MBS is still surviving, but on a very thin line. At this tipping point, slight fluctuation can result in the default rate skyrocketing. If defaults go higher, it might become impossible to pay back investors, and they might start to panic, which could cause the entire system to collapse. Usually, the default rate of 10% was considered as a breaking point if the MBS had more bad loans. If the MBS has good loans, then the default rate of 4 to 5% was considered as bad. Then, Jared explains these CDOs, which means Collateralized Debt Obligations. For example, consider there are 4 tranches in an MBS and there are 2 MBS, MBS 1 and MBS 2. Now, if no investors put money in the BBB and BB tranches in MBS 1, and in MBS 2, if no investor put money on BB, what these banks used to do was mix these unsold loans from these MBS with new MBS created, and they used to call it a CDO, or Collateralized Debt Obligation. And the rating agencies gave these CDO AAA ratings despite knowing that they have the majority of bad loans. This is what Anthony Bourdain explains with the example of a fish. They used to do the same with the CDOs, and this is how the synthetic CDO was formed, which was the nuclear bomb of the 2008 crisis. You can learn more about synthetic CDOs in this video. Now, Jared Vennett tells Mark Baum that they should short the housing market. That means they should bet the money on the fall of the housing market. With the help of credit default swaps, where they have a chance of making money 10 to 1 or even 20 to 1, that means for $1 million invested, they would make $10 to $20 million. This is how much reward credit default swaps were offered at the time. How exactly these swaps work, you can learn in this video. Jared also says, I am standing in front of a burning house, and I'm offering you fire insurance on it. When you have fire insurance on something, then you get the money from the insurer when that thing gets destroyed in the fire. What Jared meant is that the housing market is going to burn in fire, aka going to crash. So why not just buy insurance that is credit default swaps on the falling housing market, which will make them money? Now, Jared did this to get the commissions from selling those swaps. You can learn more about real-life Jared Vennett in this video, and also learn here a more simplified explanation of the ending of The Big Short movie.